Southeast Asia's energy industry players are looking to governments and policymakers to power the region's road to net zero emissions.
A recent survey among ASEAN clean energy professionals showed that more than 8 in 10 respondents see new governance frameworks as key drivers in the world's energy transition over the next few years.
Those findings, along with an uncertain global outlook, rising energy prices and growing demand, are expected to figure prominently in discussions at this year's Singapore International Energy Week.
And Roland Lim joins us on the ground at the event, which gathers energy ministers and top industry players and experts. Roland?
Hi there, Teresa. Good morning. The global energy sector certainly faces challenges on many fronts. How to decarbonize the industry quicker as energy consumption continues to rise. Where will we find the next fuel that will be greener, that's scalable? And not to mention the extreme investments needed to innovate as well as the infrastructure rollout. Well, to find out the Singapore experience, I'm joined by Ngiam Shih Chun. He is Chief Executive of the Energy Market Authority of Singapore, the organizer of this year's Singapore International Energy Week. Shih Chun, thank you for joining us on CNA. Good to have you with us. Now, this year's theme is energy transition towards a net zero world. How can we achieve the United Nations climate goals, given that oil and gas output keeps growing and renewables can't keep up? Explain to us the magnitude, the scale of this problem.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. As you said, we are in a mad rush to get to a net zero world. And I think governments, companies, academics and innovators must all come together to work hard towards getting to net zero. Fossil fuels still make up the mainstay of many power systems around the world, and that will probably remain for a couple of decades more. But I see promising signs. I see that governments and companies are investing heavily in renewable energy. I see that there are a lot more investments in the past year than ever before in the renewable energy space. So I think the energy transition is taking place, it's moving quickly, but I think we can still do a lot more to get to a net zero world.
Okay. I know the event itself hasn't started per se, but what is likely to be foremost on the minds of participants at this year's Singapore International Energy Week?
Well, I think for policymakers and industry leaders, there are a few key themes that have been going about in different platforms. I think energy security remains foremost on many people's minds. And Minister Gan Kim Yong will be making some announcements on that front in terms of how we can enhance our supply chain resilience. And of course, some of our other initiatives as well towards a low carbon future, some of our initiatives on hydrogen and ammonia, as well as furthering our grid connectivity with our regional countries.
Okay. The International Energy Agency warns that a global energy crisis, last year, I should say, because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Israel-Hamas war now is unsettling investors. It's put a risk premium, as you were, on oil prices. What's your outlook for where crude is going, where LNG prices are headed?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, or billion-dollar question, I should say. But nobody can really tell where oil or gas prices are going. What we can see is that oil and gas prices have been more volatile than they have ever been for years. And I think that's the situation to come. So it's important for us to put in place necessary initiatives and measures to secure our fuel supplies to Singapore, to ensure that we have long-term supplies and more stable prices, so that consumers can see a more stable energy system as well as more stable energy prices.
Okay, let's talk about the Singapore experience. Now, Singapore relies on natural gas, solar, regional power grids, as well as other low-carbon alternatives. Where do you see the energy mix for Singapore going towards targets like 2030, 2050?
I think natural gas will remain a mainstay in our power system. It provides stable baseload energy. It has steady and reliable supply chains. So I think that's going to remain the mainstay for decades to come. But at the same time, we're investing heavily on alternatives such as solar. Minister Tan See Leng will be making some announcements about our progress and our targets on solar tomorrow. But we are also making good progress on regional connectivity. So earlier this year, we announced conditional approvals from Cambodia and Indonesia to import electricity from those countries. And there will be a couple more announcements, I think, later this week. So look out for that.
Okay. So yes, regional energy connectivity plays a big role towards decarbonization in the region, as well as improving access to steady energy streams. Singapore has been collaborating with the International Energy Agency to enhance regional power grids. What sort of collaborations, or what other collaborations with the IEA is your authority doing?
Well, I think the regional connectivity is a very important collaboration area with many international organizations. So the International Energy Agency is one of those. And we have Singapore IEA high-level forum that will be held tomorrow, involving ministers and industry captains. And they will share their perspectives on how they are working together to get to a net zero future. We have various other collaborations as well with international organizations like the International Renewable Energy Agency. We are studying the possibilities of better regional connectivity, how countries around the region can work together to enhance energy security and, of course, to catalyze the development of renewable energy resources so that we can get to a net zero future together.
Okay. The energy mix towards a greener transition, that's going to cost more. I think the mindset of Singaporeans' experience anyway is that energy prices are only going to go up. They're not going to come down. Do you find this willingness on consumers, on the part of Singaporeans, to actually ready to pay more for their energy needs simply because they know that it's contributing to curbing climate change?
Well, I think with all new technologies, there's always a cost curve. Costs are high at the beginning, but technological developments take place and costs come down. We saw that for solar energy, and today solar energy is one of the most cost-effective ways of producing renewable energy. So I think my view is that will probably be the cost curve as well for other renewable energy technologies. But you're right. I think consumers do have to accept that costs might have to go up for cleaner energy. And that's one of the key things, right? We have to price in externalities for carbon. The carbon tax is one of those measures that we can put in place, but that will help us to price things right for energy, and so that consumers see the right price, companies are able to invest in renewable energy resources so that we can all get to a cleaner future.
Speaking of investments, the International Energy Agency has warned of underinvestment in clean energy. I mean, big oil companies have raked in the profits because of the Russian invasion. They are justified investing in refining plants still because it's needed towards the energy transition. But is it, a net-sum game? I mean, does investing in traditional oil and gas means less of an investment or loss of investment in renewables?
Well, certainly not. I do not think that they are mutually exclusive. So energy demand continues to grow globally because of economic growth, because of electrification. So that's inevitable. And as I said, fossil fuels, particularly natural gas, which is the cleanest fossil fuel, provides a steady supply of baseload energy. And that will probably continue to be developed for years to come. But at the same time, we see governments and companies investing heavily in renewable energy resources. They see that this is the potential for the future. They see that there's great demand for hydrogen, for low carbon ammonia. Singapore is taking the lead on some of these things here. We have launched an expression of interest for an end-to-end ammonia supply chain from source to power generation and bunkering. That's been progressing very well. And again, my ministers will be making some announcements on that front in an hour's time this morning.
Okay, certainly I'm looking forward to that. And that was Ngiam Shih Chun. He is, of course, the CEO of the Energy Authority of Singapore. And we'll have more coverage for you at the Singapore International Week here at 2023, and we'll be talking to CEOs of regional power stations as well as various leaders at the associations that are represented here at the Singapore International Energy Week 2023. Back to you.
All right, looking forward to that. Thank you very much. Roland Lim live at the Singapore International Energy Week.